You are not tired because of your work. You are tired because of your mind. The thoughts that never stop, the fears that repeat themselves, the futures you rehearse again and again that never come. This is not life. This is suffering through illusion. In the Shaolin temple, we learn that the source of most suffering is not the world outside. It is the disconnection from the world within. Worry does not come from reality. It comes from abandoning reality for fantasy. Your mind leaves the present moment and suddenly you are lost. You feel weak, frozen, uncertain. But there is a way back. In this video, I will guide you through teachings that few speak of, not surface advice, but deep Shaolin principles that monks train in silence, in discipline, and in stillness. We will explore how energy is wasted through fear, how breath becomes the gateway to action, and why the path to confidence is not in thinking better, but in doing better. You will discover how ancient warriors mastered fear, not by fighting it, but by understanding it. You will learn how true calm is not an escape, it is a choice made in the center of chaos. And most importantly, you will see how one small intentional step forward is more powerful than hours of overthinking. This is not theory, it is training, it is mastery, and if you stay until the end, you may walk away with more than advice. You may walk away with a new way to live. Welcome to Shaolin Soulfire. Subscribe now and return to the moment where your strength truly begins. Every choice you make requires energy, not the kind you measure in calories, but the invisible energy that determines your clarity, your presence, your power. In the Shaolin tradition, we call it Qi. It is your life force, and it flows where your attention goes. But most people never notice how much of it is leaking. They wake up, and before even moving their body, the mind has already started its rehearsal, not of success, but of failure. They imagine all the ways something could go wrong, all the reasons not to begin. This is not preparation. This is exhaustion before the day even begins. Worry is not harmless. It is not passive. It takes something from you quietly, relentlessly. It scatters the mind, weakens the breath, and breaks your connection to action. And the tragedy is, most people believe this is normal. But what is common is not always natural. In our training, we learn that before action, there must be stillness. Before strength, there must be silence. When you stop running through scenarios in your head, and instead return to your breath, you gather your energy, you collect what was scattered. This is how a punch becomes precise, how a word becomes sharp, how a decision becomes unstoppable. Breathing is not just for calming, it is for aligning. Each slow conscious breath is like drawing your sword before the strike. It centers your spirit, it quiets the noise, and from that stillness, action is no longer effort, it is flow. So ask yourself, are you preserving your energy, or spending it on worry that never changes anything? The warrior wastes nothing, neither thought nor time nor breath. Every moment is a preparation for the next move, and every move begins within. Fear is not the enemy, it is the messenger. In Shaolin teachings, fear is not something to fight or erase. It is something to observe, study, and understand. The monk does not seek to be fearless. That is not the goal. Instead, he learns to walk with fear, not behind it. He does not obey it, but he listens. Most people confuse fear with weakness, but fear, when approached with awareness, becomes a compass. It shows where growth is hiding. It reveals the places within us that are still unsure, still untested. And in that way, fear is a teacher, a strict one, but a true one. Worry is simply fear, given too much freedom. It becomes noise, distortion, repetition. But when you bring stillness to that worry, when you breathe into it instead of running from it, it begins to soften, it begins to speak. In the temple, we do not push fear away. We bow to it, not in submission, but in humility, because fear often guards the gates of transformation. It stands between who you are and who you are becoming, and no one passes through without facing it with open eyes. To understand fear is to reclaim your power. Discipline trains the body to stay steady when the heart races. Breath trains the mind to slow down when thoughts speed up. And mindfulness allows you to see fear not as danger but as direction. When fear arises, the question is not, how do I get rid of this? The question is, what is this pointing to? The warrior's path does not avoid fear. It walks into it, not to destroy it, but to discover the strength that lies on the other side. The mind cannot find stillness in a restless body. In Shaolin practice, the training does not begin with thought, it begins with form, the way you sit, the way you breathe, the way your feet touch the ground. These are not small details, they are the foundation of inner mastery. When the body is chaotic, the mind follows. Shallow breath, slumped posture, erratic movement, these are signs of imbalance. The nervous system stays alert, locked in survival. And from that state, clarity becomes distant, action becomes hesitation. But through disciplined movement, the body begins to send a new signal, a message of readiness, a message of calm. Each breath becomes deeper, each step more grounded, and the mind, sensing this shift, starts to mirror the body's steadiness. This is why monks walk slowly, why they repeat forms again and again, not for the sake of performance, but for alignment, for harmony between flesh and spirit. Simple practices hold the most power. A quiet standing posture, a breath drawn deeply into the belly, a still gaze. These are not escapes from the world, they are the doorways back into it. The nervous system calms, the senses sharpen, the inner voice becomes clearer. To act with power, the body must be in agreement, not tense, not frozen, but rooted, relaxed yet ready. Just as a tree stands firm because its roots go deep, your action gains strength when your body is steady. Train the body and the mind will begin to trust it. From that trust, a deeper confidence grows. Not loud, not proud, but unshakable. The kind of confidence that does not need to rush because it knows exactly where it stands. Attention is the gateway to all mastery. It is not willpower alone that shapes a disciplined life. It is attention, placed with care, moment by moment. In the Shaolin path, we are taught that nothing grows without attention. Not strength, not peace, not wisdom. Worry, at its core, is simply attention pointed in the wrong direction. It is focus trapped in loops, fed by imagination rather than observation. The more you feed it, the more it grows. But attention is not fixed. It can be reclaimed. It can be trained. Mindfulness is the art of returning attention to the present, not through force, but through practice, through breath, through awareness of the body, through the quiet noticing of thoughts without chasing them. In this training, attention becomes a tool, not a trap. It shifts from wandering to witnessing, from reacting to responding, and that shift changes everything. Where attention goes, energy follows. This is not just philosophy, it is experience. A distracted mind weakens the body. A focused mind sharpens it. The sword cuts where the eye is fixed. The step lands where awareness leads. Attention is not just what you see, it is what you give life to. Feed fear and fear grows. Feed stillness and peace expands. Feed discipline and strength returns. In ancient practice, even the smallest gesture, the placement of a foot, the folding of a robe, the washing of a bowl, becomes sacred when done with full attention. This is how the ordinary becomes extraordinary. Master your attention and you master your day. Master your day and you master your life. It always begins with where and how you choose to look. Clarity is not a sudden gift. It is something earned, carved slowly through repetition. In the Shaolin tradition, repetition is the foundation of all mastery. Movements are practiced thousands of times, not to impress others, but to remove hesitation. Each repetition clears away confusion, just as water shapes stone by touching it again and again. Inspiration may feel powerful, but it fades. Discipline, however, remains. It is not emotion that transforms a person. It is practice, daily, quiet, and often unseen. The modern mind seeks shortcuts. It wants breakthroughs without the slow burn of effort. But worry cannot be overcome by thinking your way out. It is not solved in the head. It is dissolved in action. One small act, repeated with intention, becomes a path. Wake up and breathe. Sit and observe. Move and stay present. The action itself does not need to be grand, only consistent. From this rhythm, the fog of doubt begins to lift. When the monk trains, he does not seek variety. He seeks depth. He repeats not because he has forgotten, but because he wants to remember more deeply. Each movement becomes cleaner, each thought more silent, and with time the way forward becomes unmistakably clear. You do not need to know everything to begin. You only need to begin something and do it well. Repetition brings momentum. Momentum brings direction, and direction dissolves fear. The world often celebrates the loudest change, but the most powerful change is quiet. It is built through small acts done well, again and again, until they become part of who you are. Clarity lives in this quiet work, in doing what you said you would do, not once, but every day. Who you believe you are quietly shapes everything you do. In the teachings of old, the masters understood identity is not fixed, it is formed, not by thought, but by repetition, not by wish, but by action. You are not simply the sum of your fears or dreams, you are the sum of your habits. When the mind says, I am a warrior, the body obeys. It tenses, it retreats, it begins to look for threats even in silence. Identity becomes a cage, not because it is true, but because it is repeated. The monk does not wait for permission to change. He acts from the place he wishes to reach, calmly, quietly. He does not identify with chaos, even when it surrounds him. He chooses the identity of one who breathes, one who moves with clarity, one who does not rush to answer every thought. Behavior then is not forced, it is aligned. You do not need to convince yourself to become calm, you simply act as one who is. In that decision, again and again, identity begins to shift, slowly, silently, but fully. When a single step is taken with intention, it becomes easier to take the next, and with each step, the idea of who you are starts to change, not because you imagined it, but because you lived it. In the temple, identity is not declared, it is demonstrated through stillness in motion, through presence in pressure, through discipline in the unseen moments. To end the cycle of worry, stop feeding the story that you are a victim of your thoughts. Begin building the story of the one who sees clearly, who chooses their actions, and who lives with steady breath, no matter the noise around them. Silence is often misunderstood. Many see it as a void, a space where nothing happens. But in ancient practice, silence is not absence, it is presence in its purest form. The Shaolin path does not fear emptiness, it welcomes it, because in emptiness there is space for truth to arise. When the noise of the world fades, when the thoughts stop clinging to every fear and distraction, something deeper begins to speak. And that voice is not loud, it is steady, it does not argue, it knows. True silence is not just the lack of sound, it is the stillness beneath reaction, the calm beneath pressure. It is the space where awareness begins to stretch beyond words, beyond thoughts, beyond identity. In this space, clarity is not created, it is uncovered. Like the surface of a lake becoming still, what lies beneath can finally be seen. The next step, the right choice, the hidden truth, they do not need to be invented, they need to be heard. Discipline in silence is a powerful practice. To sit without speaking, to move without needing to explain, to act without performing. In this restraint, energy gathers, insight deepens. The world is loud, it demands reaction. But the one who has trained in silence does not move with that noise. They wait, they breathe, they observe. And when it is time to act, they do so from a place of alignment, not impulse. Silence is not weakness, it is precision. It is the sharpening of the inner blade. And when the time comes to move, that blade cuts clean, not through anger, not through doubt, but through truth. Suffering does not always come from the situation itself. Often it begins when the mind says, this should not be happening. The moment we resist what is, argue with it, deny it, or wish it away, tension takes root. Worry grows in the space between reality and refusal. The more tightly we cling to how things should be, the more we suffer in how they are. In Shaolin wisdom, acceptance is not surrender. It is clarity. It is the courage to see things as they are, without decoration, without distortion. It is the first breath before any meaningful action. A warrior does not waste energy on resistance. He sees the terrain, even if it is difficult. He feels the pain, even if it is sharp. And still he stands, not because he agrees with every challenge, but because he accepts it as part of the path. This kind of acceptance is powerful. It does not paralyze, it liberates. When you no longer fight the present, you free up the energy to respond to it. You begin from where you are, not from where you wish you were, and from there progress becomes possible. To live without judgment is not to abandon discernment, it is to drop the extra weight, the blame, the bitterness, the why me. These are heavy, and they blind you from seeing the step right in front of you. Peace begins not when life becomes easier, but when resistance dissolves. From that still ground, action becomes simple, not easy, but clear. And in clarity, there is strength. Acceptance is not weakness, it is the wisdom to meet life on its terms and still choose to walk forward with open eyes and a steady breath. Confidence is not something you wait for. It is something you build. The disciplined path teaches that clarity, courage, and calm do not appear before the first step. They appear because of it. The mind often says, "I'm not ready," but readiness is not a feeling. It is a decision. One breath, one movement, one quiet action at a time. Waiting for confidence is another form of delay. Worry uses it as a disguise, convincing you to pause, to analyze, to prepare endlessly. But thinking alone cannot silence fear. It only strengthens its voice. The Shaolin way is to move with purpose, with humility, with full attention, not to rush, but to respond. Each time you act, no matter how small the step, you tell yourself, "I am capable, I am disciplined, I am here." This repetition becomes your foundation. The one who takes action begins to trust their own hands, their own breath, their own rhythm. That trust becomes self-respect, and self-respect becomes the quiet source of unshakable confidence. There is power in doing what you said you would do, not for applause, not for pride, but for the alignment between your words and your life. The ancient teachings remind us the path is walked, not wished for, and every step forward dissolves a little more doubt. Even when fear is present, movement cuts through its fog. Even when the outcome is uncertain, effort builds strength. Do not wait for the storm to pass before you move. Move with grace through it. Let each act, however simple, remind you of your ability. This is how the inner warrior is awakened, not through thought, but through action chosen with intention and repeated with devotion. The path to calm and decisive action does not begin in the mind, it begins in presence, in the breath, in the body. What you've heard today is not just philosophy, but a way of living that must be practiced, not just understood. Worry loses its grip when you return to what is real. When you choose stillness instead of spinning thoughts. When you take one small, clear step and then another. Let your discipline become your guide. Let your breath bring you back. And let your actions, no matter how quiet, remind you of your strength. In the Shaolin way, mastery is not loud. It is calm, steady, grounded. Each day offers a new chance to live that way with clarity, with purpose, and with peace. Thank you for walking this part of the journey with us. If this teaching brought you stillness or strength, we invite you to like the video and subscribe to our channel Shaolin Soulfire, where ancient wisdom meets modern life. Until next time, stay present, move with peace, and carry the silence within you.